Hey, it's Game Hydro with another video about Dragon Traveler. I am going to make a tier list of the top Luminaries in the entire game. Now, we got a lot of different ranks of Luminaries. We got SSR, EX, SSR Plus, uh, regular SSRs, SRs, etc. So, for the purposes of things, I'm going to focus them on the SSR EX, SSR Plus, and SSRs. I'll have another video coming with the blue collar heroes, the SRs. I call them the blue collar heroes because they are pretty easy to get in normal play. But there are different ways to figure out who is, the top ones in the game. Obviously, besides reading all the different websites that copy and paste the same descriptions that they probably jacked from Reddit. So off we go. We're going to start with an SSR EX over here, the Goddess of Wisdom, Athena. Now, taking a look at the base stats, uh, typically they generally appear pretty close to each other, at least from when you're looking at them on this screen. But they're these are the base stats, which means that they level up. They increase proportionately when you level up, which can eventually lead to a gargantuan advantage. So there's not really much in the way of like tanks, uh, glass cannons here, DPS type. Well, there are DPS types, but it's more the skills that determine that. So you're going to hit the magnifying glass to check out the skills. Check out Goddess of Wisdom, Athena. So battle resolve. Each attack deals additional physical damage equal to 12% of her own lost hit points. For each enemy hit, recover 6% of lost hit points. So, lifesteal. Lifesteal is good stuff. While in Grace, effective battle resolve increased by 30%. When possessing both morale and fervor, we enter the Grace status and some more additions down here. And then looking at the skills, you got Overdrive sacrifices 40% of current hit point to gain a shield equal to 60% of max hit point for 8 seconds. Slams the ground at target location, inflicting taunt on enemies with within a large circular area for 8 seconds, and dealing physical damage equal to 200% of attack. So that's an interesting one. One that sacrifices her own hit points, but then life steals also. Uh, I'm kind of don't think I've seen something like that before. Aegis of Echoes gains fervor, throws a shield at a single target that ricochets, bouncing up to 5 times before returning to self. Each bounce deals physical damage equal to 75% of attack. Each enemy can only be hit once. So if you're fighting against 3 enemies at a time, you're not going to have bounces off of multiple enemies in one shot. Lifelink, when an allied luminary's hit point fall below 30%, forms a lifelink with them, increasing the target's damage reduction by 20% and redirecting 60% of their damage taken by the target to herself. This lasts for 8 seconds. This effect can trigger only once on each luminary, so it can't happen multiple times per battle. That's kind of a big limiter there. Um, Counter Helix. When taking damage, 25% chance to deal physical damage equal to 140 percent to enemies within a large circular area, and that can trigger once every 2 seconds at most. Gains Rage. When Rage is at limit, enters Wild, which triggers a chance increase to 35, and the skill has no cooldown for the duration. All right, so Athena, Goddess of Wisdom, we got pretty high amount of damage here, but what we have especially got is Lifesteal. We got a skill that trades her hit points for a shield worth more than her hit points on a temporary basis, and she protects other. She acts as a tank, protecting other team members. That is a highly valuable one to have in your party. So I'm gonna give her S tier. Between all that, she's pretty killer. Next, SSR Plus, Judge of the Underworld, Anubis. Now, comparing the base stats of the two, Anubis actually has higher hit points, but slightly lower defense, lower physical defense, lower magic defense. Attack is exactly the same, though. Now, I'm not giving the massive amount of credence to stats, I guess, because each character is so upgradable with star ups and upgrades that you can have one with the lowest base stats end up being the most powerful one in your party. It's really all due to luck of the draw. But Anubis, more of a uh, higher hit points, higher attack, lower defense. So, whenever an ally is defeated, gains a stack of Death Rattle, consumes 3 out of 7 to gain immunity to the first and second instance of fatal damage received, recovering 50% of max hit points. Okay, self-reviving. That's an extremely strong skill. Plus, you got this match down here. Whenever gaining Death Rattle, he deals magic damage equal to 7% of max hit point to enemies within a large circular area. After casting, increases the defenses by 25% for 10 seconds. During this time, whenever gaining Death Rattle, 50% chance to gain an additional stack of Death Rattle. So to enemies within a large. So that's area damage. It's not necessarily. Oh, 7% of max hit points. That's actually better than I thought. All right. Sand Shield equal to 13% of max hit points and an equal shield to the ally with the lowest hit points. So SSR pluses, I'm assuming that most of them are probably going to have skills that let them act as shields to your weaker party members because honestly, you're not going to have all the SSR pluses and all the SSR EXs in your party unless you're a whale. Or unless you play for a long time. Might of the Dunes increases hit points by 13%, hit point increase by 16% each time Descending Judgment is cast, stacks up to 5 times. So Descending Judgment is the first skill on the list here. So each time it's cast, hit points increase. Sands of Solace grants all allied ranged luminaries 3 scales. Each scale increases damage reduction by 12.5%. This skill only activates one time at the start of the battle. All right, so this is another good tank. Another good tank here, primarily not only as a tank, but the self healing is really good. The self reviving in order to not die at the end of the battle. That one is super valuable because when you come to a super tough battle, sometimes it's just that one character that makes the difference between losing it and winning it. So I'm giving this dude an S minus because there's a little bit less overall attack compared to some of the others, but I'm still pretty impressed with this guy. Fallen Warborn Goddess, Hellvile, whatever. Same stats as Anubis, like exactly the same. And skill-wise, increases crit resist of everybody by 180. After taking non-critical damage, has a 15% chance to restore 2% of max hit points. When an ally is defeated, gains 1 stack of Death Rattle. Each stack of Death Rattle causes crit resist to increase by an additional 20%. Grace status causes healing, etc., etc. Summons a shield formation for 5 seconds, dealing physical damage equal to 280% of attack power to enemies within a huge circular area. While the shield formation is active, gains immunity to control effects and damage reduction is increased by 100%, etc. So that provides a lot of defense and a lot of attack. Absorbs the souls of enemies within a medium cone-shaped area. For each target that is affected, gains a shield equal to 9% of max hit points for 6 seconds. So that shield actually does not last all that long, in my opinion. 6 seconds? I mean, yeah, there's going to be a few attacks, but, you know. In battle, increases hit points by 10%. If self-generated shield is not broken, deals physical damage equal to 15% of max hit points to enemies in a large circular area and inflicts crit down. Special skill. Just spins around and smashes the ground, dealing physical damage equal to 140% of attack to enemies within a large circular area and gaining fervor. So there's a good amount of area damage here, but the tankiness is not necessarily as effective. Crit resist, I'll be honest, is not one of my one of the skills I usually find more important. But due to being SSR plus, I got to give her an A tier still. Now, if you are not following along with a pen and paper with the tiers, you should be. I don't have the software available on hand to make a tier list, and I'm not even at home right now. So if you want an easier way to track this, a pen and paper would be great, or type it on your computer, whatever you want to do. All right. So we got a few more SSRs in the Guardians area. Now we're going to go with Drazzle, the Ancient Tree Guardian. As you can see, the defense is actually very high, but the attack is a little higher, but the hit points are fairly low. So we're going to go for the skills here. Gains rage when hit points decrease. Rage at the limit, enters wild, instantly recovering 26% of lost hit points, then recovering 3% of lost hit points per second. All right, so that is even though the hit points are low to begin with, that's pretty good healing ability. Plus boosting magic defense and things of this nature. Grants a shield equal to 19% of max hit points to all allies, lasts 8 seconds. Deals magic damage equal to 180% of attack to enemies within a large circular area, plus recovers 36% of lost hit points. Root juice. Allied luminaries in the wild status with a shield regenerate hit points equal to 2% per second. So that's a passive skill. While in wild status, after taking damage, deals magic damage equal to 3% of max hit points to the attacker. All right, so despite the low max hit points, I would say that this guy is unusually strong at being leveled up higher than the rest of the party, because there's not only some very high damage and high defense, but good shielding techniques. This dude is a good candidate to be essentially a one character run winner. So I'm going S minus with this guy. Slime King Gudong. Same stats as Anubis, actually, despite the lower rarity. Upon death, summons 3 small slimes that inherit 20% of attack, 20% of hit points, and 100% of all other stats. They last 20 seconds. Cheap. The same name as the fish dude from Mario. Deals physical damage to a single target that is equal to 320% of attack and inflicts stun. Lasts 5 seconds. That's good. That's good attack power. Spawns a small slime every 16 seconds up to a maximum of 3, summoned by this skill at a time. Slime Shield. Upon defeat, leaves behind a puddle of slime goo that lasts for 5 seconds. Enemy units standing on slime goo have their movement speed reduced by 80 and attack speed reduced by 40. That's pretty good, actually. Gurgles, restoring 20% of max hit points. So, I wouldn't say any of those skills are super impressing me, but they're all pretty good. The single target attack skill, that's high hit points, but again, that's a single target. Healing is good, but not as good as some of the other healing skills I've seen around. The generating small slimes, that one sounds good in theory, but 20% of attack and hit points will get them killed pretty quickly. Regardless, though, Slime King's a pretty good one overall to have in the party. We're going to go A minus tier. Now, Ancient Golem. Oh, I forgot to look at the stats of this cat. 8.8, 110, good physical defense, high magic defense, very high. The higher the Ancient Golem's hit point percentage, the larger it grows, the higher the physical defense becomes. However, its attack speed will also decrease. So the more hit points it has, the slower it attacks. The less hit points it has, the smaller it is, and the faster it attacks. Um, Physical damage and attack speed increase and decrease inversely to one another, up to 45%. When possessing both morale and fervor, enters gray status, ignores hit points percentage, and always maintains maximum size at that point. Leaps into the air and strikes down at the earth, dealing physical damage equal to 28% of max hit points to enemies within a large circular area. Pretty good. Stuns for 3 seconds. Range increases with size. Hurls a stone at a random allied luminary, granting fervor to allied units within a medium circular area around the target. The range increases with the size of the caster. It gains a shield equal to 12% and lasts for 8 seconds to whenever it casts a skill. When taking damage, 8% chance to gain fervor. Alright, so to be quite honest, I'm not in love with the fact that it generally becomes less useful as it loses hit points, because most of the tough battles that you fight come down to the last 5 seconds to 10 seconds of the battle, and you're going to need your characters to be as effective as they can be in that time. So I'm going to give this dude B+ tier. King of Beasts, Herman. So Herman has high attack, high physical defense, and low hit points. All right, skill-wise, each time an ally releases Overdrive, gains a stack of Awakening. After releasing a skill, if there's at least 3 stacks of Awakening, it consumes 3 to unleash 3 Spirit Flames. During the duration of Spirit Flames, it deals 80% of attack as physical damage every 2 seconds, and that lasts for 8 seconds. So that's a total of 640% of range damage in a medium circular area, as well as 8% of max hit points to self per second, totaling 64% max hit points. Dear God, that's powerful. I'm impressed with that one. Savage Uproar. Select a single target and roar at them for 450% of attack. And then area damage equal to 150% plus speed down, plus triggers punishment, which causes 3 seconds of stun to a single target. Throws 2 axes forward and then recalls them. Each axe deals physical damage equal to 150 to enemy units until it passes through, and only hits the same target once. Applies healing down to enemy units hit by both axes. So you tap healing down, it's a debuff effect. Reduces healing, lasts 8 seconds. And then tap any of these skills to see what they do. Awakening, special arcane wisdom faction status lasts to the end of battle. Increases own damage reduction by 16% when taking non-overdrive damage. And then finally, leaps into the air, slams down on a single target, dealing physical damage equal to 230%, gaining a shield equal to 15% of max hit points, lasts for 6 seconds. Alright, so I like that the area damage happens before the shield. This character got a lot of damage going. The hit points are low, but again, this is a good candidate to, over level a little bit in order to match the hit points up with your more powerful characters. And so with all the very high attack, very high defense, that kind of mitigates the hit points a bit. So with that, I am going to give her an S-. All right. Moving down here, we got the Wishing Genie Scheherazade. Same stats as that last one I just did. So all skill effects have a 40% chance to activate twice. By the way, she's SSR+. When healing under the Grace status, increases healing by 30%, etc. Wish granted heals all allies for 23% of the caster's max hit points, with a 15% chance to grant morale and fervor. Each time an overdrive is unleashed, gains 1 stack of awakening. When using this, consumes 4 stacks to guarantee wish fulfillment. Heals the allied luminary with the lowest hit points for 17%. Increases damage reduction by 15% for each stack of awakening. Reduces the energy cost of the next overdrive unleashed by this unit and the allied luminary with the highest current overdrive energy cost by 1. Alright, so we got our first true healer here. And not only is she a true healer, but she's got super high defense and high attack power. I'm giving her S tier. Scheherazade, excellent choice. All right, moving on. We got the Fairy Queen Titania. Oh, wait, forgot the stats. Slightly lower attack, higher hit points, high defense, and high magic defense. So I'm smelling a tank here. Let's look at the skills. When casting a skill to heal an ally, 25% chance to dispel 1 debuff, and additionally heal allies within a medium circle for 9% of max hit points. Guaranteed to trigger when the target is in the wild status. So I don't love that it's only a 25% chance at all times, but I am good with the wild status bit. Unleashes Blessed Power, healing all allied luminaries and worms for 24% of max hit points. Heals the allied luminary or worm with the lowest hit points for 18% of the caster's max hit points. That's pretty good. Radiance of Hope. Magic defense up each time Redemptions is triggered and increases own healing effects by 10% for 8 seconds. Meteor Fall deals magic damage equal to 120% of attack to the target and enemies within a medium circular area. When hitting enemies affected with an elemental debuff, heals luminary or worm with the lowest hit point for 12% of the caster's max hit points. All right, so Titania, super high defense and an even more hardcore pure healer than Scheherazade, who is also more of an attacker type. And a pure healer can really make a difference in your party. I'm giving her S tier also. Let's go next to Holy Blade Bishop. She has higher hit points, lower attack, medium physical defense, high magic defense, and let's take a look at the skills. Every 10 seconds grants Sanctuary to 1 random allied luminary. Whenever Sanctuary is granted to an allied luminary, it heals them for 11% of the caster's max hit points. Can trigger on the same target a maximum of 1 time every 3 seconds. Grants Sanctuary to allies within a massive circular area that lasts 6 seconds. And Sanctuary grants immunity to stat debuffs and elemental debuffs for 6 seconds while active. Alright. So there's a bit of healing, but primarily it's buffs here. Plus attack boost by 30% for 8 seconds. Deals magic damage equal to 160 to enemies in a straight line and grants Sanctuary to the allied luminary with the highest attack. This skill can trigger the punish effect. When punishment is triggered, damage increases by 40%, and each time 1 random allied luminary grants Sanctuary. Hit points increase by 8. Whenever ally triggers punishment, they gain Sanctuary. Summons a Holy Shield next to the allied luminary with the lowest hit point percentage. Every 3 seconds, it heals allies in a large circular area for 5.5%. This appears after triggering 3 times. When a Holy Shield is summoned, it grants the target Luminary Fervor. Alright, so Ophelia, not really feeling her skills as much as some of the others. Buffs and debuffs are useful, yes, but when you compare them to straight healers and tanks, typically they're the ones I tend to find less important. So with that in mind, I'm giving her a B+. Alright, next, Arcane Lord Atanith. Super high attack, low hit points, low defense. So we got a glass cannon here, possibly. Let's look at the skills. Increases overdrive energy cost to the nearest enemy luminary by 1 and reduces their magic defense by 20%. This effect is dispelled after she is defeated. Increases energy cost to the next overdrive. What? Okay. I guess they do kind of similar things, but they can kind of play over each other too. So this also increases energy cost of the next overdrive unleashed by any enemy luminary by 1 and deals magic damage equal to 120 to all enemies. So this is a rare and unusual skill, is making it harder for enemies to use their overdrive skills. That actually can work out pretty well in your favor. Magic damage to a single target to equal to 210, inflicting silence for 3 seconds, which means cannot cast active skills. Each time an ally unleashes overdrive, gains 1 stack of awakening. Each stack restores 6% of max hit points to self and the allied luminary with the lowest. When on the battlefield, allies gain additional 16% lifesteal when attacking targets in the cursed domain. I do like the reduction of enemy use of overdrive and making it harder for enemies to trigger overdrive, but that does not an S tier character make. I'm going to go B plus for this one because that's a little bit niche. Next up, we got Caligula, the Iron Gut Tyrant. High defense, high magic defense, medium attack, medium hit points. Let's check out those skills. When casting healing effects, heals for an additional 5% of the target's lost hit points. Gains Death Rattle whenever an ally is defeated. Healing increased by 2% for each stack. Alright, so I do like that. I already like that he becomes more effective as allies start to die. Summons a magic circle, granting allies within a large circular area adrenaline, which increases attack by 20%, and healing them for 700 plus 18% of the caster's max hit points. Heals targets in wild status for an additional 50%. That's a lot. Grants a shield equal to 21% to the allied luminary with the lowest hit points for 6 seconds. Pretty good. When each allied luminary first enters wild, it's immediately cast on them. Increases damage reduction by 30% when attacked by melee characters. Not bad, actually. Summons 1 totem. The totem heals the 2 allies with the lowest hit point percentage for 7% of the caster's max hit points every 2.5 seconds. The totem inherits 50% of the caster's hit points and is destroyed after 3 heals. So, having a tough time with this one because the main skills are not super impressive, but the overdrive is really good. I'm going to give him an A minus. Next up, Hero Mentor. Chiron, whatever. High hit points, high magic defense. Looking at the skills. At the start of battle, grant the allied luminary with the highest attack a light orb. Each time a luminary launches a skill or basic attack, the orb fires a magic arrow, dealing magic damage equal to 90% of the luminary's attack. It disappears when the caster is defeated. So the orb sticks around the entire time and essentially doubles the attack power of the highest attacker. Not bad. After selecting an ally target, deducts 30% of current hit points to grant them morale. Increases attack and damage reduction by 15%. That's bizarre. And heals the target and all allies within a large circular area for 600 plus 24%. Alright, so that's not bad. Channels for 5 seconds to heal the allied luminary with the lowest hit point for 35% of max hit point. Alright, I had a brief phone interruption there. I believe we left off on Chiron's last skill, which is increases her own healing effects by 20%, increases healing dealt to battle bond targets by an additional 20%. Combined, let's see. Heals the lowest allied luminary with the lowest hit points for 35% of caster's max. It's select an allied target. Deducts to grant them morale. The deduction thing is weird, but overall, I think her skills are pretty good. And uh, the thing I like the most is this thing where she clones the attack power of the most powerful attacker. So I am going to give her an A plus tier, mostly based on that and due to the sheer strength of some of these healing things. All right, moving down to this category, we got Hades. So Hades has low hit points, high attack, super high physical defense, good magic defense. Skill wise, attacks are not affected by attack speed, cannot gain awakening. Damage amplification increased by 20 for every 4 stacks of awakening gained by others. Damage amplification increased by an additional 10, and Soul Chase evolves once. Stacks up to 4 times. Alright, so a very strong attacker already. Creates 1 clone at the current location. Up to 3 can exist at the same time. Blinks to the front of the single target, dealing physical damage equal to 740% and knocking them down. Clones inherit 40% of attack, cannot be targeted, and do not move on their own. If enemies are nearby, they perform basic attacks every 4.5 seconds. Each time caster uses overdrive, clone moves to the nearest enemy and launches a basic attack. Alright, so clones have low-ish attack power, but are still pretty strong, and they permeate the field and target other enemies. Creates a clone at the current location. Up to 3 at the same time. Oh, never mind. Enhances basic attacks. Each evolution adds an additional instance of damage, up to 4 instances. Each instance deals physical damage to a single target equal to 160% of attack. 4th instance deals double damage. Damage increases based on target's lost hit points percentage. For every 1% of hit points lost, damage amplification increases by 0.4%. Whenever allies are defeated, gain 1 stack of death rattle. For each stack, attack increases by 1. Blah, 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 blah. Long words. Clone on the battlefield recovers 25% of max hit point for each clone absorbed. So she absorbs her own clones and then recovers hit points. Alright, so not only you got self-healing there, but you got the ability, you got unparalleled so far attack abilities. Super, super strong attacker, easily the best one we've seen so far. That is an S tier. Now, don't count on her for tanking or healing. She is straight attack and thus is best paired with tanks and healers. Tai Chi Master. You would think that a Tai Chi Panda type character would have stronger, a lot more hit points, but no, but he does have good defense and magic defense. Looking at the skills, increases attack speed and crit, 5-second taunt effect at the start of battle, which forces a target to attack themselves and prevents them from using active skills. Alright. Darts in front of a single target, applying 5-second taunt and dealing physical damage equal to 800%. That sounds like a really good skill on bosses. Begins charging power, intercepting basic range attacks for 2 seconds within a medium circular area. Deals physical damage equal to 295 with enemies in a medium circular area. Fluidity consumes 5% of current hit points for each basic attack and steal 2% of the target's attack for 6 seconds. Gains rage when hit points decrease. When rage is at the limit, enters wild status. Lifesteal increases by 15% and basic attacks are replaced with 5 flowing fist moves that no longer consume hit points. Each move deals physical damage equal to 100%. Alright, so we got some moves with good attack power here, and attack speed and crit increasing is pretty good. The vacillating back and forth between consuming his own health and doing lifesteal is strange. I'm giving Tai Chi Master a B. Alright, White Tiger, 4 Saints, SSR Plus. Now, the stats don't show here because I have her leveled up to an insane level, so you can't see the base stats. But you can kind of tell what they were originally. Um, Pretty well balanced between attack, hit points, and defense, honestly. So, looking at the skills, no critical hits. Every third basic attack deals 230% to the target and enemies in a medium cone-shaped area behind them. Pretty good. Sacrifices 30% of current hit points to unleash a flurry of strikes on a single target for 910% of attack. The final blow deals 120% to enemies in a large circular area. Lifesteal increases by an additional 50% for the skill's duration. Leaps behind the target to deal physical damage equal to 320 in a cone-shaped area. Gains rage when hit points decrease. Attack increases by 10 when rage is at the limit, etc. AoE damage of Kickstorm. All attacks ignore 15% of the target's physical defense. While not affiliated with or afflicted with a debuff, the effect is doubled. So, White Tiger is pretty much a straight-on attacker. Possibly an even bigger straight-on attacker than Hades. I would say not quite to the same tier as Hades, but still very, very good. Very effective. I'm giving her A tier. Next up, we got World Serpent Jormungandr. Her HP and magic defense are pretty high. Physical defense decent. Attack meh. Only food and power are worth pursuing. Every 9 seconds deals physical damage to the current target equal to 50% of attack, 35% to the target's lost hit points, not exceeding 350. While in gray status, this skill's damage increases to 50% of attack, 70% of lost hit points. All right, so the less damage that the more damage already taken by the target, the more damage she deals. So this one would be excellent against boss types, as well as to finish off tanks and tougher enemies. Launches them into the air, deals physical damage equal to 410, then 240 to enemies in a large circular area, 2 times the damage of Ravaging Maw to selected target. Healing down, reduces healing received by 50% on the enemies. So the physical damage so far is not as high as some others, but the ability to increase attack power, that's pretty good physical damage actually. 320% of attack and inflicting defense down. The best part here to me is the ability to do more damage to enemies that have already been damaged. Great against tanks, great against bosses. However, a little bit niche, a little bit too niche to go S tier on. I'm going A tier with this one, maybe A minus. Next up, we got the Death Knight Mordred. Super high hit points, low everything else. So let's see how this one turns out. Launches a water bomb at the farthest enemy luminary, dealing 10% of damage, own attack to enemies. Only 10%? And applies chill, which reduces healing effects by 15% for 10 seconds. Deals magic damage equal to 660 in a straight line and grants a stack of death rattle. Becomes untargetable when casting, and then automatically attacks the nearest enemy unit at the end. 510% on that one. Stack of death rattle. Increases damage dealt by 33 against unbuffed enemies, 33%. Spins the scythe to deal magic damage equal to 280 to enemies in a large circular area. Against elemental debuffs, lifesteal up to 75. Alright, so low attack power to begin with, but high attack skills. So they kind of even out a little bit, but nothing there is really blowing my skirt up, so I'm going to give her a B plus tier. Lancelot, Knight of the Lake. So this dude has very high magic defense, good-ish hit points, decent hit points. Not much attack power. The farther the total distance moved, the higher the damage amplification becomes, up to 40%. Not bad. Gains morale, charges at a single target, dealing damage 110% to enemies along the way, and then 220 to enemies in a medium circular area around the target. I've seen better. Unleashes a flurry of consecutive thrusts, dealing 225 in total in a medium cone-shaped area. Increase crit by 350. In Grace, each critical hit reduces cooldown of Solar Steed by 1 second. Upon entering the Grace status, instantly dispels all debuffs from self and reduces the cooldown of Solar Steed by 14 seconds. Well, I think I accidentally shut my microphone off in the last half of the video that I originally posted, so sorry about that. We're going to continue from where we left off with Goddess of Vengeance Nemesis. Her attack power, pretty good. Magic defense, pretty good. Hit points low. Physical defense, very high. Looking at the skills over here, so what we got after unleashing Overdrive, next 6 attacks increase attack speed by 80%. So, and then you go down the list, you get things like Punishment, Silence, cast active skills, etc., etc. And moving on, blink to the back of a single target and deal physical damage equal to 380% of attack power. This skill can trigger punishment. When punishment's triggered, crit damage increases by 50% for the duration of said skill. Alright, that's decent. So it's only one target there, though, for 380%. I've seen better. Poison darts at 2 enemy luminaries, each dealing physical damage equal to 120. Doesn't even say anything about poisoning them, but, So each time an ally releases an overdrive, gains 1 stack of awakening. When you get 2 stacks, you launch a supercharged crippling strike. So that's the crippling strike, is the poison dart skill. Deals physical damage equal to 30% of attack. Single target to large circular AoE damage. Crit increases by 600% when attacking enemies with overdrive energy of 4 or more. So, honestly, none of those skills are really impressing me too much there. So, I think I'm going to go with a B for Nemesis. Now, obviously, this is a B compared to other SSRs over here. Not really compared to every rarity, because, if you compare her against a bunch of Rs and SRs, then obviously pretty much S tier. If she's your only SR, she's the one you want on your team. But she's, if she is your only SR, or if she's not, then, yeah, whatever. I don't know. I'm rambling. All right, moving down. Goddess of War, Ares. Much has been said about Ares. Attack power sky high. Everything else is pretty low. Bit of a glass cannon. Looking at the talent. So basic attacks equal to 16% of max hit points. Max hit points, keep this in mind. That's much higher than max attack, and that's area of effect. That's area damage. Full energy, God Fist, and Focus Fist become supercharged, aka more powerful. There's God Fist, dealing physical damage equal to 600% of attack to enemy units in a medium rectangular area while knocking them back. When at full energy, additional damage equal to 44% max hit points. Plus punishment effect is triggered. That is a lot of damage. Unleashes a forceful fist forward to tear through. I say that 5 times fast. Forceful fist forward to tear through enemies in a cone-shaped area, dealing physical damage equal to 190% of attack. Additional damage to enemies in the center, 19% of max hit points. More energy equals more damage. And then a shield equal to 30%. This one, when enemies under When attacking enemies under control effects, damage dealt by 40% is increased, plus Awakening Call, which all 3 stacks are consumed to power up the next normal attack, causing it to do more damage, and Stun. Special skill, upon taking fatal damage, become briefly invincible and inflict time stasis, which makes an enemy unable to take action, move, attack, or cast skills for 5 seconds. Alright. Ares is looking extraordinarily strong here. I'm pretty impressed with everything I see here. I'm giving her S tier because that is a ridiculously strong attack. So if you get Ares, now she's an SSR EX, so obviously she's more rare, so her skills are going to be better. Put her in the party. Next up, Orborn Goddess Brynhild. So primarily centered around magic defense and decent and pretty good hit points. So this talent of hers, the tactical shift, enters Grace, grants a shield equal to 6 seconds. Radiant Ember increases attack by 11, so that can stack infinitely. So there's the potential there, despite the low attack at the beginning, for a super, super high attack. All right. For 5 seconds, beams of light rain down, deal physical damage equal to 140% of attack up to 5 times per second in a massive circular area. Each target can be hit up to once every half a second, but that means up to 10 hits in 5 seconds, which would equal 1,400% attack. Pretty strong. And then under Grace, additional effects based on Radiant Ember stacks, such as shields, damage increases, death rattle, etc. Physical damage equal to 160% of attack, grants morale. Physical and magic defense increase by 10%, plus death rattle whenever an ally is beaten. Spins forward, dealing physical damage equal to 120% of attack to enemies in a straight line, and gaining fervor. So, like we said, morale and fervor at the same time equal grace, which equal a shield equal to 220% of attack. That's 220% of attack, not hit points. So it's significantly lower than you might be expecting. But still, that is a really strong attacker, especially with the overdrive. I'm going to give an A- tier here. It's not super amazing attack skills, but the attack skills here are pretty good. We're going to move on to Marillis, the 6-armed serpent. So low hit points, medium attack, high defense. That is the book on Marillis. Looking at the skills, additional physical damage equal to 24% of attack whenever dealing physical damage. So that's additional physical damage always. 40% of current hit points to deal physical damage equal to 180 of attack to enemies within a circular medium area and restores hit points 6 times.
Hello, Dad.
Each amount is equal to 20. So 120 total. So all in all, Marillis gains hit points in the long run off of that overdrive. 10% of current hit points sacrificed to deal damage equal to 440 to enemies in a medium circular area. Increases attack by 10% upon an ally unleashing overdrive, gains awakening, consumes awakening to launch additional blade dances, which is the ultimate skill. Special skill, gains rage when hit points decrease. When rage is at the limit, enters wild status. Lifesteal increases by 36. Blade dance damage increases by 50. Overall, the one weakness is all of these weird hit point losses that are required for the ultimate skill and the overdrive. but the overdrive does seem to heal and make it up. So I'm going to give her an A minus tier for dealing lots and lots of dealing. Well, I'm going to give her B plus tier because she didn't deal as much damage as Brynhild did, but still quite a bit. All right, next up, Arthur the Eternal King has mostly, I believe, the same stats as Marillis. No, not even close. So low attack, medium hit points, high magic defense. So skill-wise, shield equal to 120% of attack for 6 seconds and grants fervor to one other random ally luminary. Plus improvements down here. Let's see. So ultimate skill, each attack has a 9% chance to grant fervor. And physical damage 140, 440. Each skill triggers punishment. Damage increases by 35. Overdrive energy is greater than 4. Damage is increased by 35 up to additional point of energy cost. So a lot of words, but pretty good damage is what it means. Grace causes Excalibur to deal physical damage equal to 210 to basically all enemies, and increases the energy cost of the next overdrives for enemies by 2. So you take less damage, you deal damage. Damage reduction goes up by 18% when in the Grace status, instead increases damage amplification and lifesteal by 18%. Alright, so overall, a pretty good, pretty well-rounded set of skills there for King Arthur. I'm going to go A- tier for King Arthur. Now, to recap, we are going from S tier all the way down to, if necessary, C tier. If there's one that really sucks compared to its contemporaries, I'm going C tier. Otherwise, B- or B tier is probably going to be the lowest tier that I go. All right, so Bloodthirsty Sword, turfing. You got high attack, low everything else. So not only does the talent increase her attack, but she steals healing away from enemies that she attacks for up to 10 seconds. Plus, reduced overdrive cost is kind of nice. And other things of this nature. Rage Reborn. All right, back to Tierfing. So we looked at the talent. Now we got the overdrive. Transforms into Bloodferno form, dealing physical damage equal to 300% of attack into a large circular area. Recovers 20% of max hit points and immunity to control effects. And when you're in Bloodferno form, attack and life still go up. Basic attacks deal area damage. And you've got a new overdrive called Crimson Execution that deals physical damage equal to 760% of attack power, which is quite a bit. So, next up, the ultimate skill sacrifices 20% of hit points to deal damage equal to 240 in a large circular area. Speed boosts the attack, plus also punishment. Secret skill increases life steal by 12%. This is doubled when hit points fall below 50%. That's pretty good. Gains rage when hit points decrease. When rage is at the limit, enters wild, which causes each basic attack to have a 70% chance to deal a double attack. So the other form is pretty cool. I kind of do like the lifesteal. It seems to kind of mitigate the hit points lost by the ultimate skill. So Tierfing, I'm going to give a B+ to, because I've seen some better skills out there, but that one's still pretty good. Next up, we got Astaros, the Labyrinth Overlord. Statistic-wise, Astaros has good attack, good hit points, high physical defense, high magical defense. That's a good overall blend of skills for that dude. SSR, no plus, no EX. Talent-wise, gains rage as he loses hit points, eventually entering wild status, causing a spinning attack, a relentless spin attack that deals 100% on each strike. That's pretty damn strong. Overdrive sacrifices 20% of current hit point to materialize a spirit avatar that deals physical damage equal to 420. Nice. To enemies within a medium circular area and launches them into the air. The avatar will also deal physical damage equal to 140 to enemies along its path. So that's a pretty strong one there. Let's see. However, the sacrifice of current hit points, that always tends to be a demerit for me. 4 overdrive points on that one. The ultimate skill becomes supercharged when charging for the first time, dealing additional physical damage and launching the target into the air. Also, when entering wild, instantly recovers 22% of lost hit points. So, not 22% of max hit points, 22% of lost hit points. So it's not as high as you may think it is. When in wild status, attack increases by 25% and gains immunity to control effects. So, you do have pretty good, I like the rage thing. Plus, you look at these additional skills. You got things like extra healing that pops up, death rattle to increase savage cyclone damage, although not by much. I'm going to go B+ tier on that, though, because the stats are really good, but the skills, I'm thoroughly whelmed. Not overwhelmed, not underwhelmed, just whelmed. Next up, we got the King of the Wild Hunt, Beowulf. So Beowulf is all hit points, nothing else. Everything else is kind of weak. Let's take a look at the skills, though. Maybe they will redeem things. So, when taking fatal damage for the first time, instantly recovers 60%. In the following battle, attack speed increases by 60% and loses 10% of max hit points per second. Death rattle decreases the speed of hit points lost. So, the gradual hit point loss is bizarre. It's kind of like a self-poison, but then you get an instant recover when you take fatal damage, so that mitigates the damage a little bit. Plus, you get hit point and damage increases over here. Ultimate skill, overdrive, deals magic damage equal to 330 to enemies in a large circular area. Then, every 2 seconds for 8 seconds deals 110% damage. So add all that together, 770% of attack. That turns out to be quite a bit of damage, especially over a large area. Ultimate skill delivers the hammer blow to a single enemy and steals their magic defense for 8 seconds. Not too bad. Secret skill, when dealing damage with skills, grants a shield equal to 5% of max hit points for each enemy hit. Lasts 6 seconds. Pretty decent shield, I guess. In battle, increases attack by 10%, and each time an ally unleashes overdrive, gains a stack of awakening. When possessing awakening, immediately consumes a stack of it to launch 1 additional hammer time. So hammer time, of course, is the ultimate skill, not the overdrive skill. So you get extra hammer times here. The high hit points I do like, and even though the defense and the attack are low, the overdrive skill is stupid powerful. So I'm going to give an A- to Beowulf over here. Beowulf, not too bad. Good choice. Now, I need to reiterate, of course, that these tier segments that I'm giving them are only compared to other SSRs, SSR pluses, and SSR EXs. If you throw any one of these SSRs into a party full of Rs and SRs, then it's automatically going to be the strongest and best one, and it will be S tier compared to all of them. Next up, we got Guna. Guna has decent hit points, low attack, decent physical defense, super high magic defense. Looking at the skills, we got when you gain the blessing buff, your basic attack is buffed to over double to all enemies within a large circular area and recovers hit points equal to 210% of your attack. So that's a pretty good hit point recovery there. Radiant Sword formation. Large circular area, 320% deals double damage to the target that's selected, and inflicts stun if you are in grace status. Now we got the ultimate skill, raises a shield and enters a charging stance, granting morale. After 3 seconds, deals physical damage equal to 180% to enemy units in a large area. That skill's damage is increased when you take damage while charging. So, morale and fervor combined, of course, do add grace status. So, secret skill increases damage dealt by 45% when attacking enemies with a shield. After damaging a shielded enemy, hit points are restored equal to 40% of attack. So that's 40% of attack, not 40% of max hit points. That's actually a little bit low in my book, but damage dealt being increased is kind of nice. All right. Moves behind a target and deals physical damage equal to 340 to that one target. When punishment is triggered, crit increases by 1,500. So obviously a small chance at landing a crit, but when you do land it, watch out. Overall, though, the skill's not the most powerful here. I'm going B. B tier for Guna. Next up, we got Siegfried, the Hero Queen. So Siegfried, interestingly, appears at like just about every rarity, basically. So, tap. Hero Queen Siegfried. So we can't really see what the base skill bases are because we've starred her up so many times. But kind of doing the math and working back, her attack and hit points are well balanced. Her physical and magic defense are fairly high. Kind of the same stats that we had with not Guna. Was it Asteros? Yeah, same stats as Asteros. So looking at the talent, in battle increases hit points by 14. Attack increases by 29 when attacking enemies inflicted with an elemental debuff. So that elemental debuff can include evaporation, flash freeze, ignite, chill, and shock. So those debuffs already have to be in place for the damage to increase. All right, blazing vortex spins out a sizzling ring of fire. Johnny Cash memories. Dealing physical damage equal to 150 to enemies in its path. Physical damage equal to 300 to enemies in a medium area at the target location. So it's kind of like you got two different attacks in one. Flame Cleave. Sacrifice 10% of current hit points. That's actually not that bad. To unleash 3 pillars of fire, dealing damage equal to 125 to enemies within a rectangular area and dropping their physical defense. So this makes it easier for not only her, but your other party members to kill enemy luminaries. And that physical defense drop equates to 35% and lasts 8 seconds. Over here, already clicked that. So secret skill gains rage when hit points decrease. At the limit, enters wild, which increases physical and magic defense by 30%. So going a little tanky there, not bad. When in wild status, attack increases by 30%. All right, so overall, the damage is not that high from these skills, but she does last quite a bit of time in battle due to the combination of high defense and good hit points. Definitely tends to provide a lot of tankiness in your party. So I'm going to go B+ tier for Siegfried, the Hero Queen. Now, that's to say nothing about the other Siegfrieds, because you get her in at least 3 different rarities in the game. Me, I've got her rare form, her SR form, and her SSR form. So she does pop up in a lot of different rarities. All right. Over here, moving on to Ifrit, the Flame Fiend. God, I can't say that. Flame Fiend. So, good attack, low hit points, good high physical defense, good magic defense. Let's take a look at the skills over here. Triggers an extra hit of physical damage after hitting the same target 3 times, equal to 86% of the unit's attack. So, if you kill the target within before the 3 hits are over, that doesn't trigger. That kind of, I find that a little underwhelming. Fires 16 fireballs to bombard all enemy units, each dealing 255% of the caster's attack as physical damage. The second fireball to hit the same unit and after does only 20% of that damage. Now, 20% doesn't sound that good, but that's still 51% per fireball. So overall, that ends up being quite a bit of damage dealt by this overdrive attack. It's fairly overpowered in a good way. Ultimate skill, Firestorm. So unleashes a fiery vortex, 4 hits in a medium circular area, inflicts ignite, and deals 38% of attack each time. Casts Awakening at 3 to 6 stacks, hits increase to 6 to 8. Too bad it's not 6-7. All right. Elemental debuff, deals magic damage equal to 3%, every 2 seconds, lasts 10 seconds. Then over here, boost your attack by 10%, each stack of Awakening adds 4% of attack. And finally, launches a Fire Shell, dealing physical damage equal to 180 in a small circular area. For each stack of Awakening, launches an additional Fire Shell, up to 4, with extra shells, dealing 25% damage. All right, so this is a weird case. Some of these attacks are so insanely powerful that they had to stick limits on them. Overall, I'm giving Ifrit a B+, because that Fireball Overdrive attack is pretty wild and does so much damage over time, and especially is a little more effective against Luminaries, against battles with a lot of enemy Luminaries. Maybe slightly less so against bosses. Next up, Twin Ravens. So they are well balanced with attack and hit points, high physical and magic defense. Let's look at the skills. After hitting an enemy with a basic attacker skill 7 times, applies Scar Sigil to the target, increases 650 critical hit. And it reduces healing received by 20%. So that is actually particularly useful in battles where you've got an overpowered healer on the other side, making it hard to kill everybody else. And then the Overdrive deals physical damage equal to 185 to enemy units in a large fan-shaped area upon shooting and returning. So they hit twice then, 370% total. And it's area damage, which is pretty nice. Calls upon Munin to deal 210% of attack as physical damage to a single target, and if it has Scar Sigil, applies physical defense down. Now, Scar Sigil, let's see. Yeah, Scar Sigil lasts until the end of the battle, so it takes a while to trigger, but it doesn't go away after 8 seconds. It sticks around. So that's excellent against bosses, especially. Ricochet, each basic attack consumes 5% of current hit points and ricochets between enemy units, dealing 50% damage per bounce for up to 2 bounces. And then in Frenzy status, you get lifesteal, you get higher attack speed, and 2 additional bounces. So that's pretty hardcore. I like that. And then finally, special skill cooldown. Summons a flock of crows to attack enemies in a straight line, which deals 90% of their attack as physical damage to surrounding enemies every 1/5 of a second. That one actually sounds pretty strong. Between that and the fact that the Twin Ravens are a little extra effective when it comes to bosses and healers, I'm giving them A tier, because the bosses and the healers just tend to be the biggest pains in the ass that you're going to face. So we're going to move on over here to Laurelin, the Radiant Elemental. Stat-wise, low attack, medium hit points, medium physical defense, high magic defense. Looking at the skills, When an enemy is affected with shock sweep, an elemental debuff that reduces crit resist by 200 for 10 seconds, a pillar of light is cast on them, dealing physical damage equal to 135 of her own attack, While in Grace status, there's an 80% chance to inflict shock sweep. So obviously, Grace is morale plus fervor. Alright, so, okay, come on. Kept hitting the screen by accident. Kicks a single target and applies shock, continuously attacks that target, dealing physical damage equal to 690% to one target. So, good against bosses, but kind of lacking compared to some of the area damage ones out there. Multiple light bullets to deal 324 as physical damage to a single target. Crit increased by 550 under elemental debuff. Grants high morale to self and one random ally luminary, prioritizing Sanctum Glory faction. So high morale increases physical defense, magic defense, and damage amplification by 15%, lasts 8 seconds, and is doubled while in the Grace status. So overall, Laurelin, that's a tough one to rank. I do like the... I do kind of like this. I like this, especially, the overdrive against bosses especially, but not super effective against some others, against battles where area damage would be more useful. So I'm going to give Laurelin, did I call her Lorelei before? I'm going to give Laurelin a B+. Next up, we got Van Helsing. That is medium attack power, low hit points, high physical defense, medium magic defense there. So each time a skill's cast, attack speed goes up by 12%, stacks 10 times, and lasts the whole battle. So the longer the battle lasts and the tougher the battle lasts, the more effective Van Helsing is. Fires a continuous barrage of projectiles, each wave dealing 48% to enemies in a large circle area. Attack speed bonuses influence the number of waves. At minimum, 8 waves. Let's see, 8 times 48 equals like 390 or something like that. 15 times 48 equals over 700%. So overdrive pretty damn strong either way. Toss a grenade to deal physical damage of 228 in a circular area and triggers punishment, which inflicts additional physical damage down. Shoot with flare, dealing physical damage equal to 290 of attack to a single target. When punishment is active, damage is boosted by 50%. And finally, boost attack speed by 16%. The special skill does. Each overdrive use grants 1 stack of awakening, and when awakening is available, instantly consume it to trigger an extra cast of either grenade or the Demon Bane crossbow. Alright, so the main thing here, I do like the fact that she gets more effective in longer battles, and I do like the epic amount of damage that Waltz of the Wicked can do when you got some speed boosts on her. So Van Helsing gets a B+ tier. And then next up we got the Gorgon. 15.4, super high attack. Everything else is kind of low for Medusa. Looking at the talent, after a basic attack applies 1 stack of Venom Mark, and at 4 stacks, deals mark, detonates the mark to deal physical damage equal to 190 to the target. So that is not area damage, that is single unit damage, unless you have a stack of Death Rattle. Then it applies 1 stack of Venom Mark per Death Rattle to all enemy units. Alright. Overdrive here. petrifies for 4 seconds plus deals damage equal to 260 to enemies in a straight line. Ultimate skill, basic attacks 40% chance to unleash broken arrows for 2 additional strikes. They deal 65% of base damage. Plus, each time an ally falls, you get a stack of death rattle. Each stack increases this chance by 2%. So that's not much of an increase, but we already went over the fact that death rattle has pretty strong effects over here. Releases a mystic serpent which jumps between up to 3 enemy units, dealing 210 physical damage based on its own attack to each target and delaying their overdrive cooldown by 3 seconds. Alright, so not a ton of damage to deal with here. I do like the petrify status, even though it only lasts for 4 seconds. It does what you would expect petrify to do, what you would expect Medusa turning someone to stone to do. So, use that against a strong enemy, healer, boss, keep attacking them. That can make Medusa pretty valuable. Plus, of course, the attack power is sky high, so you don't necessarily need 700% here. Let's give Medusa a B+ rating. Moving on to the final category, we're going to scroll over here to the sea goddess Poseidon, who is SSR EX. Now, her stats are evenly balanced between attack and hit points, which are both pretty high, but both forms of defense pretty low. So that's kind of an unusual stat mix from what we've seen so far. Taking a look at the skills over here in talents, all of Poseidon's skills inflict chill, which reduces healing effects by 15% and lasts for 10 seconds. So that's not too bad. That's especially pretty good if you're facing off against an enemy team with a healer. When triggering elemental reaction, deals additional magic damage equal to 80% of Poseidon's attack. So elemental reactions include detonation, evaporation, and flash freeze, ignite, shock, blah, 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 blah. All right, moving on. Unleash a tidal wave on enemies across a massive area, dealing magic damage equal to 400% of attack. So splash damage, literal splash damage from a tidal wave, 400% to all enemies. At the start of battle, summons a blizzard, continuously knocking back enemy units while dealing magic damage equal to 260% of attack. I do quite like that one because not only is that quite a bit of damage, but the knockbacks are going to prevent you from getting hit for a while. Next, Tide of the Abyss, max energy +5, gain 1 energy, elemental reaction. At full energy, unleashes a torrent on enemies with the lowest overdrive energy consumption, dealing 135% of attack as magic damage. If the target is less than 4 overdrive energy consumption, its next overdrive costs 1 extra energy. Small effect there, but the other skills I kind of like. When your Luminary receives lethal damage, they're frozen for 3 seconds, becoming immune to lethal damage while recovering hit points equal to 400% of their attack, up to 100% of the target's max hit points. So unless you have really strong gear for her, now obviously this, well, yeah, it's affected by gear, but the base level without gear, 400% of attack equals 40% of max hit points. But still, reviving as soon as you get hit with lethal damage is extra strong skill to have. So between that and the high amounts of splash damage, I'm giving Poseidon S- tier. That's pretty good. Archangel Gabrielle is next. Skills, or stats rather. You got low attack, decent hit points, decent physical damage, very high magic damage. Pretty common combination among the SSRs that we tend to notice. Talent is 510 crit up. Each critical hit restores 4% of max HP, plus Grace gives another 510 crit up. Assumes the form of a 6-wing angel and unleashes a series of slashes, dealing magic damage equal to 425 to enemy units in a large circle. Pretty good. 425 splash damage. So this one, straight line damage to enemies, 330% of attack. Grants morale to self and 2 random allied luminaries at the start of battle, prioritizing Sanctum Glory faction. So very good pairing with others who are affected not only by morale, which increases attack and damage reduction, but also to those who have a chance to benefit from grace status. So good combination with those ones. And then finally, gains 30% overdrive damage boost each time an ally is defeated, gains 1 stack of death rattle. When casting Invictus, consumes up to 5 stacks. For each stack consumed, 15% overdrive damage boost. So 15% damage boost on top of the 425. That's pretty decent. But the base level skills are pretty strong. Unfortunately, attack is rather low on this one. Still pretty decent, just not as good as some of the others. I'm going to go B+ to A-. Now, Golveg, the Demi-Lich, probably pronounced that wrong as hell. All hit points, none of anything else. Looking at the stats, when dealing damage for each debuff, damage increases by 12% up to 60, plus healing down as you start to gain more levels, reduces healing received by 50% for 8 seconds. Pretty strong. Great against teams with healers. And then later it becomes heal block for 8 seconds. That's pretty strong. The overdrive applies healing down to enemies within a large circle and deals 330% of attack. Yeah, that's pretty strong. The secondary skill is why it's strong. Drains hit point from a target over 6 seconds, dealing magic damage equal to 470, and restoring hit points equal to 282 of attack to the ally with the lowest health percentage. So, high damage and high healing. I like this. In battle, increases attack by 11. When an ally is defeated, get 1 stack of death rattle. For each stack of death rattle, attack increases by an additional 1%. So 1% extra per death rattle is almost completely useless. Deals magic damage equal to 230% of own attack to enemies within a medium circular area around the target, and applies chill, which again takes away healing from enemies. So Demi-Lich is maybe the best one I've seen so far against teams with healers in them. I'm giving Demi-Lich a, let's look at the stats again. High hit points, so she sticks around for a while. Just make sure to equip some gear with good defense, and you got a straight up S tier right there. Demon Overlord Faust is next. Now looking at Faust, another one with a ton of hit points and none of anything else. The skills. So one important thing about Faust is she has this kind of stuffed animal that can double the attack called Cruel. When both are on the field, both gain 28% of attack. Each time an ally is defeated, gains 1 stack of death rattle. When Cruel is damaged and HP drops below 80%, consumes 1 stack of death rattle to heal Cruel for 110% of Self's attack. Alright, so keeps Cruel on the field. And then, of course, Cruel gets summoned by the overdrive here. Deals 390% to enemies in a medium circle and inflicts stun for 1/10 of a second. 1/10 of a second? What the hell is that going to do? Cruel inherits all of Faust's attributes and automatically attacks, with each hit dealing 125% magic damage. If carrying Bunny Bomb, it deals 245 based on its attack to enemies in a medium circle instead. Bunny Bomb, of course, is the ultimate skill. It launches at a single target and sticks to them, and explodes to deal 275 in a medium circular area after 5 seconds. So potential for pretty good area damage there. Not great, but pretty good. But when Cruel is present, the Bunny Bomb attaches to Cruel and, of course, causes this. 245 to enemies in a medium circle. Alright, so after using your skill, the next basic attack gains a buff, deals magic damage equal to 165 of your attack to all enemies within a large circular area. So, more area damage here. And then the special skill releases a crescent shockwave, blasting enemies in a straight line for 248 of the Luminaries attack as magic damage. So, basically, you've got 4 different ways to deal damage here. And you got a built-in damage doubler plus the Bunny Bomb that can boost Cruel. So the Faust is pretty strong based on all that. I am going to go for Faust with A tier. Next up, Hellhound Cerberus. You can probably guess what the stats would have been based on the appearance here. All attack, none of anything else. So, kind of a glass cannon this Hellhound is. Increases own attack by 24% on top of what it already is. After casting skills 5 times, enters a dormant state, weakening the effects of all of its own skills. Now that automatically is something I do not like that much. The dormant state is really bizarre, and I don't think that Hellhound Cerberus is strong enough on its own to really to make that play. Spits out 3 fireballs with each dealing damage equal to 165 of its own attack to enemy units in its path. The final one deals double damage to the enemy within a medium circular area around the target. If a target gets hit by all 3 fireballs, the overdrive energy consumption is increased by 1. In a dormant state, only 1 fireball is spit out. So that one is super effective when not in a dormant state. When in a dormant state, Sprays flames forward 3 times, each dealing magic damage equal to 118 in a straight line. Only 1 flame in a dormant state. When dealing damage to enemy units with overdrive energy consumption not less than 4, it deals magical damage equal to 42%. So not quite that high, but then again, Cerberus does have a very strong attack power. Slams the ground, releasing 3 pillars that deal magic damage equal to 222 of its own attack to 3 random enemy units. And when dormant, it's only 1 pillar of fire. So, Cerberus is a glass cannon, and nothing there is anything that will boost its defense or its hit points. And the attacks are very strong, but in a dormant state, they're crap. So for Cerberus, I'm going B-, because that dormant state kind of just kills the vibe of the whole thing. Next up, Flame Witch Melina. Wait a sec. Gotta see the stats. So, attack and hit points, both pretty high. Physical and magic defense, both a little bit on the lower side, but not lowest. Now, the skills. The first Phoenix Talon is buffed. Increase overdrive damage by 50%. Obviously, Phoenix Talon is the overdrive, which deals magic damage to 320 of its own attack to enemy units in a straight line, and applies Ignite, which, as we've been over before, deals magic damage every 2 seconds equal to 3% of the target's max hit points. So that's 15% of max hit points over the span of 10 seconds. It has the potential to provide a nice little boost / kill shot to enemies. Ultimate skill is that it deals 140 of attack as magic damage to enemies in a medium circular area and inflicts magic defense down. So making enemies a little more, a little weaker and more susceptible to not only her magic, but the magic of others. Grants morale to self and one random allied luminary. Of course, morale increases attack and damage reduction for 8 seconds. And in battle, increases attack by 15%. Alright. So, that one's pretty decent. Not the best one. Not terrible. I'm going B. The main draw there is the debuffs on the enemies, of course. Next, we are going to go Queen of Egypt, Cleopatra. Fun fact, Cleopatra exists. The real Cleopatra lived closer to you and I being alive than to the pyramids being built. That is how old the pyramids are. Anyways, Cleopatra, all hit points, none of anything else. So we're going to go to the skills. Each time a non-overdrive is used, summons a mummy, up to 4 mummies at a time, which inherits 28% of attack, 14% of hit points, and 100% of all other attributes for 20 seconds. So the only thing I don't really like there is that the mummy's stats kind of suck. But up to 4 at a time, you can overwhelm them with numbers. Deals 130% of attack as magic damage to enemies in a large circular area. Summons 2 additional mummies, which ignores the usual limit. So 4 is the usual limit. So if you already got 4 on the field, you can have 6 here. Then they all charge at the designated target and self-destruct, each dealing magic damage equal to 350% of their attack. So not equal to Cleopatra's magic damage, but to their magic damage. So that would be about 80 to 90% of Cleopatra's damage, if I'm doing my math right. But when you have like 4 or 6 mummies on the field, that can really add up to a lot of damage to the target. Magic shield equal to 27% of max hit points to self and all mummies. When an ally is defeated, gains a stack of death rattle. Each stack increases the attack inherited by mummies by an additional 1%. 1%, what the hell is that going to do? Releases quicksand, dealing magic damage equal to 260 to enemy units in a straight line. So, the only real strong attack here is if you have a bunch of mummies on the field and all of them target an enemy and self-destruct. Otherwise, not super impressive here. I'm going B- to B tier for Cleopatra. Next up, Shadow Elemental Telperion. I probably mispronounced that one hard. The attack and hit points pretty high. The defense is pretty low. Let's look at the skills. Each time a skill deals damage to the same target 3 times, it applies shock and deals additional magic damage. Shock reduces crit resist by 200 for 10 seconds. And it's an elemental debuff, so for other members of your party that have that do extra damage to elementally debuffed enemies, this one can be a good pairing. Looking at the overdrive skill, channels a beam of energy, dealing magic damage of 432 in a straight line, and can also trigger punishment, increasing damage by 40%. Deals magic damage equal to 160 in a row, or to a row of enemies, with an extra hit on the center target. So 320 on the center target total. Critical hit increases by 550 when attacking enemies under elemental debuff. There you go. Deals magic damage equal to 130 to enemies in a straight line twice. So 260 would be the total there. So another set of skills that doesn't impress me a ton, but the overdrive has the chance for quite a bit of damage in a straight line. I'm going to go B+ tier for Telperion. And now finally, Nanalee, the Four Seasons Deer Spirit. The attack is is pretty good. The hit points fairly low. The defense is pretty high. Now, I do need to reiterate, though, that because these are SSRs, SSR Pluses, and SSR EXs, if you plug them in next to a bunch of Rs and SRs, the stats are still going to be significantly higher, and the skills generally will be significantly more effective. Anyways, over here, the talent gains rage when losing hit points. At max rage, enters wild status, which causes it to heal allied luminaries in a large area every 3 seconds for 33% of attack and reduces their overdrive cooldown by 1 second. All right, that is a killer talent. So heals them equal to 100% of attack, and or 99% of attack if we're being picky, and reduces the overdrive cooldown. That's a fairly rare talent and kind of buffs everybody. Deals 440 as magic damage in a large circular area around the target. While in wild status, damage dealt by this skill is increased by 30%. Let's see. So that's pretty good damage. And splash. Deals 260 of attack as magic damage to one target. If hit points are above 50%, sacrifices an additional 30% of current hit points upon casting to increase the skill's damage by 50%. Alright, I never really like it when a character sacrifices their own hit points to increase damage, but that isn't that big of a sacrifice. For example, if you're at 50%, then you're sacrificing 15% of max hit points because it says 30% of current hit points. Yeah. But there's healing there, including of the self, so that kind of balances it out. Secret skill increases overdrive damage by 25, gains a stack of awakening each time an ally uses overdrive. Using an active skill with at least 4 stacks of awakening consumes 4 stacks to gain adrenaline, which increases attack power by 20% for 8 seconds. And the special skill selects an allied luminary with the highest range, excluding itself, prioritizing melee, and grants it adrenaline, and deals magic damage in a large circle around the selected luminary every 2 seconds for 6 seconds. And the damage will be equal to 60% of Nanalee's attack. So that's not a ton of magic damage, but it is splash. But where I really like the skill is the healing here. The area healing for all your luminaries and the reduction of the cooldown alone overcome the somewhat not that strong skills aside from the overdrive. And so I got to give Nanalee A- tier. So hopefully you were following along with a pen and paper. The S tier ones, obviously, those are the ones that you want to shoot for the most. And if you're going crazy with re-rolling, those are the ones that you want to try to get. But that is my breakdown and tier list of all the SSRs, SSR EXs, and SSR Pluses in the game. Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know in the comments who your favorite characters are, why, who you find the most effective. Because everybody's gonna have a different tier list after enough experience of playing. But yeah, this is Game Hydro. Check out our other Dragon Traveler content, and yeah, have a good one.